My pleasure to have you today, my friends. Do you ever feel trapped? Not by a job, but by the relentless pursuit of freedom. Because the hardest lie to swallow is the one you enthusiastically sell yourself. Welcome to Enchanted Life Inside.
Yeah.
You know, it's a really painful paradox when you stop and think about it, isn't it?
It really is.
We start out with this idea, this goal to just escape the grind, to make enough money so that nobody can tell you what to do, where to be.
That's the dream, right? Total control.
Exactly, the ultimate expression of control. And so we go on this very intellectual journey. We dive headfirst into financial literacy, usually in our early 20s,
Wow.
full of ambition.
Oh, yeah. Armed with coffee and a stack of books.
Totally, and we learn all the jargon.
Yeah.
Cash flow, leverage, passive income, and of course the almighty asset column. And there's this thrill in that discovery. It feels like you've hacked the system.
Like you found the cheat codes.
Yes, the cheat codes to the economy.
Yeah.
But that intellectual thrill, it's intoxicating.
It is. And for so many people, especially those of us who, did well in traditional education, mastering the concepts feels exactly like mastering the execution.
That's a great way to put it.
You start to believe that the anxiety of climbing the career ladder isn't solved by climbing it differently, but by just leaping off it entirely.
Into entrepreneurship or investing, yeah.
Right. But you do it without really appreciating the terrifying ground-level reality of what sustained financial risk actually feels like.
Oh, 100%. I remember that feeling so clearly, thinking, okay, I've got the diagrams, I've read the same books as the billionaires, I have the mindset. We thought we were so smart learning to make money work for us.
We all did.
We just internalized all the theories, celebrated the little diagrams of money flowing in and out. But making money actually work, that's a completely different game.
A different universe.
It demands this resilience, this market intelligence, and a willingness to just fail spectacularly over and over that a $15 paperback just never, ever prepared us for.
And that initial confidence, the one that's built on those simplified blueprints, that's often the most expensive tuition any new investor pays.
So I think for this deep dive, that's what we need to examine. The allure of the shortcut, the psychological tools you need to survive the long, hard road, and that essential difference between, inspirational theory and gritty, profitable implementation.
That's good.
So we really have to begin with the movement that, it shifted the worldview for millions of people. The Rich Dad philosophy.
The big one.
It wasn't just a book, was it? It felt like a societal intervention. It had such a profound effect on us, especially in those impressionable years.
In your 20s, yeah.
Because it didn't shame you for being financially ignorant.
Yeah.
Instead, it gave you this powerful external diagnosis. It said, you're not failing because you're dumb or lazy. You're trapped.
You're trapped in a system. The rat race.
The rat race. And it's a system designed for dependence. We were just victims of a flawed education system that only taught us how to be really, really good employees.
It was incredibly liberating rhetoric. It reframed the problem completely.
And that term, rat race,
yeah,
it's so precise because it's controlled by two of the most motivating emotions we have: fear and desire.
Right. Let's break that down. Fear is the anchor.
It's that constant low-level hum of anxiety in the back of your mind, the fear of not being able to pay your bills this month.
The fear of a recession, of losing your job.
The fear of losing that thin margin of stability that you have and then having to start completely over from scratch. That fear just keeps you locked in.
It keeps you in that predictable cycle. Get up, go to work, pay bills, repeat.
And then desire is the engine, right?
Exactly. Desire, or let's call it greed, that's what drives you to seek more money. You think that next promotion, that next luxury car, that's what's finally going to bring you happiness or security.
But it just leads to lifestyle creep.
Always. Your income rises, but your expenses, they just balloon even faster.
Yeah.
You compound your spending, which only increases the fear you need to maintain that new lifestyle.
So it's a closed loop system, a trap of emotional and financial dependence.
And the whole thing is maintained by what he calls the poor dad mentality, the employee mindset.
Which is what? This belief that you should just work for money, seek security, and rely on your company or the government for your long-term needs.
Exactly. Pay raises, a guaranteed pension, tenure, medical benefits. It's a social contract, a powerful one.
But the guru's argument is that it's a contract designed to keep you dependent on the master, to keep you in the race.
Which brings us to, the foundational principle that Kiyosaki just hammers home again and again. Financial education starts with one simple rule,
Know the difference between an asset and a liability.
and then structure your entire financial life to just continually acquire assets. That's it. It sounds so deceptively simple.
It's like the first commandment of this new financial religion. And just to be clear for anyone listening, let's define that in his terms, not accounting terms.
Sure. And asset, in this context, is anything that consistently puts money in your pocket.
So rental income, stock dividends, business profits, royalties from a book,
Right. And a liability is anything that consistently takes money out of your pocket.
the mortgage, car payment, credit card debt.
And this, inevitably, leads to that one contrarian view that just shook the foundations of the American middle-class dream.
And started a million arguments at Thanksgiving dinner.
Absolutely. The idea that your primary residence, your home, is a liability.
This point is so crucial because this is where the theory starts to clash really hard with reality and, even the tax code. So why is the house, the supposed cornerstone of security, a liability in this model?
Because it demands constant negative cash flow. That's the key. Every single month, money is leaving your pocket.
The mortgage payment, property taxes, insurance.
The maintenance, the roof that suddenly needs repairing, the leaking pipe, the lawn that always needs something, it all takes money out.
Right.
The middle class often confuses appreciation, that potential gain if they sell, which isn't guaranteed and certainly isn't liquid, with actual cash flow, money coming in every month.
So the argument is that the middle class buys liabilities they think are assets. They tie up all their capital in these illiquid, expensive commitments.
Exactly. But let's pause and add the nuance that the guru often just breezes past.
Okay, good. Because a house can be a decent wealth builder over decades, right? I mean, specifically because of tax advantages.
It can. You have mortgage interest deductions, property tax write-offs, the capital gains exclusion when you sell. Those are real benefits.
But they're tax benefits, not cash flow.
Precisely. We have to distinguish between tax efficiency and cash flow. And the biggest hidden cost of owning your own home is the opportunity cost.
What you could have done with that money instead.
Exactly. That huge down payment, all the equity you have tied up, that $1,000 a month you're spending on maintenance and taxes, that capital could have been used to purchase a true income-generating asset.
Like a fourplex that generates positive cash flow from day one.
Right. The middle class buys the luxury item first, the nice house, and then they hope that appreciation will save them down the road. The rich, according to the philosophy, buy the assets first, and then those assets pay for the luxury house.
And this whole philosophy, which is pretty clearly communicated, it led so many of us to the tool that was designed to help you internalize it. The cash flow game.
A board game.
I remember spending hours at friends' houses, throwing the dice, just dreaming of moving from the rat race to the fast track.
We all did. And the game, to be fair, does two things very well.
Okay, what are they?
First, it teaches you the basics of a financial statement, how to track the flow of money. And second, it establishes the one clear objective. Your passive income must exceed your total expenses. That's how you escape the rat race.
It gives you a target, a finish line.
It does. It provides tremendous foundational value in understanding how a P&L statement works, just in miniature. But this gets us to the core issue, what we're calling the cash flow game delusion. The delusion is that mastering the low-risk, simplified rules of a board game is the same as mastering the highly complex, high-stakes reality of the actual market.
It's a classic failure of what they call second-order thinking.
Explain that.
Well, we mastered the first-order concept. Buy assets, use leverage, we got the diagram. But we didn't understand the second-order consequences and complexities, the specific volatile real-world factors that actually make an implementation successful or not.
Right. Real estate isn't just a number on a card you draw from a deck.
No, it's due diligence, legal risk, tenant management, surprise construction delays, interest rates suddenly spiking. The game simplifies all of that down to simple arithmetic.
It really does. Reality throws in all the variables. When you buy a real-life rental property, you don't just draw a card that says your property generates $200 a month.
I wish.
You have to negotiate the deal, secure the financing, manage regulations, and then you have to face the possibility of vacancy or, even worse, destructive tenants. The game completely minimizes liquidity risk and it eliminates market timing entirely.
And this is where the personal confessions start to feel really real. You hear these stories, and I can definitely share my own, of that that intoxicating period after reading the book. Spending, say, 2 years and maybe $24,000, not on buying an asset, by the way, but on endless seminars, high-priced coaching, joining these masterminds.
Chasing the secret.
Yes, chasing a promise, not building a structure, all while trying to replicate these high-leverage deals using your own personal debt.
And the confession isn't really about losing a specific sum of money. It's about the devastating realization that you've dedicated so much time and capital, only to find yourself deeper in the rat race than when you started.
That's the ultimate cognitive dissonance. Your financial chains are now made of the very debt you leveraged to try and escape.
It's crushing.
And then after all that, you encounter the critical counter-narrative, the one that's often hidden just beneath the surface of all the marketing. The guru himself, Robert Kiyosaki, was reportedly a failed businessman. He went bankrupt multiple times before the book became this global bestseller.
This is a crucial distinction that we absolutely must not overlook.
Right. The wealth wasn't primarily generated by the leveraged operational real estate deals he often described, in the past tense.
No. The wealth was generated by selling the dream of financial education and inspiration. His greatest asset wasn't a shopping mall or an apartment complex. It was the intellectual property.
The book, the game, the seminars.
That was the cash-flowing asset.
So the lesson isn't that the concepts themselves are wrong. I mean, understanding cash flow is absolutely essential.
Of course.
The lesson is that the path that was advertised as a shortcut was often just a highly effective sales funnel. It was selling inspiration that lacked the necessary detail and required a ton of existing capital to mitigate the risk.
In the end, the shortcut cost you more than the disciplined long road would have.
Exactly. And that feeling of failure, being deeper in debt, the stress of it all, it's physiologically draining.
It is. It doesn't just empty your bank account. It fills your body with cortisol, the stress hormone. And that makes effective, decisive decision-making almost impossible.
That emotional drain is the real barrier, isn't it?
It's the true barrier to any kind of long-term success.
Which is why we have to pivot now. We have to go from the financial balance sheet to the psychological balance sheet. Because even if you have perfect financial knowledge, success is impossible if your internal posture is just one of perpetual fear and anxiety.
So we need to address the social science of power. This brings us right to Amy Cuddy's fascinating research on nonverbal expressions of power.
Her core argument is so revolutionary. It's that our nonverbal behavior isn't just a way to communicate to others. It's not just about how they perceive us.
It's a powerful feedback loop that influences how we perceive ourselves.
We are just hardwired for instant judgment. Cuddy cites these astonishing findings, They demonstrate the speed and the predictive power of these nonverbal cues.
Like the physician's study.
Yes. Researchers analyzed these 30-second silent video clips of doctors interacting with patients. And the judgments people made, based purely on the doctor's body language, their warmth, their openness, could predict whether that physician would later face a lawsuit.
And it was often completely irrespective of their technical competence. It was all about the nonverbals.
Or the political science experiments. People judging a candidate's face for just 1 second can predict 70% of race outcomes.
Based on these primal perceptions of strength and trust. That's the external audience making snap decisions based on the language of the body.
But the truly game-changing insight, the one we need to focus on, is the internal audience. Our body language influences our own thoughts, our feelings, and most critically, our physiology. It creates this feedback loop of either confidence or despair.
And we can define these expressions pretty clearly. High power is expansive.
Taking up space.
Exactly. Opening up the body, displaying posture that's consistent with dominance and success. And this is universal. Think of the classic V pose, arms up, chin slightly lifted.
The victory pose.
It's the expression of pride in winning. They've seen it even in people who are congenitally blind when they cross the finish line first. They've never seen it, but they do it.
And low power is the exact opposite. It's closed, it's contractive.
Hunching over, crossing your arms or legs tightly, literally making yourself smaller, trying to disappear. She saw this tension directly in high-stakes places, like an MBA classroom.
Where posture directly correlated with perceived influence and participation.
Which often factored heavily into your grade. So the critical question became, can we deliberately manipulate this loop? Can we use our bodies to change our minds, and by doing that, change our behavior and ultimately our outcomes?
And the physiological evidence, that was the smoking gun, wasn't it?
Yeah.
If we want the mind of a leader, someone capable of taking intelligent risk, what's the hormone profile we're looking for?
We are looking for high testosterone, the dominance hormone, and critically low cortisol, the stress hormone.
So you want to be dominant but not stress reactive.
That's the ideal leader.
Neat.
Most high-performing individuals have this ratio. They're assertive, willing to take risks. That's the high T. But at the same time, they're calm, they're unflappable, they're not stress reactive. That's the low C.
And when you're financially stressed or trying to operate a complex investment strategy, your cortisol is just through the roof.
And it paralyzes the high T that you need for decisive action.
Which brings us to the most incredible takeaway from her research: the sheer practicality and speed of the intervention. The 2-minute tweak.
That's right. Just holding a simple high-power pose like the Wonder Woman stance, hands on hips, or that expansive V pose for only 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
2 minutes before a stressful social evaluation like a job interview or a high-stakes negotiation. It can significantly alter this hormonal profile. It raises your T and it lowers your C.
And increases your own feelings of confidence and your tolerance for risk.
Exactly. But we have to stress the distinction here. This is not about being arrogant or posturing during the interview.
Right, this is about pre-performance self-regulation.
Absolutely crucial. You should not, under any circumstances, sit in a high-power pose across the table from a prospective employer. Don't do that.
That would be awkward.
This is about you talking to yourself in private. Before the big meeting, you go to the bathroom stall or a quiet elevator or a closed office, and you engage the pose.
Instead of what most people do.
Which is hunching over their phones, reviewing their notes, making themselves small. They're literally inducing the low-power, high-stress state right before they need to perform. You have to interrupt that pattern.
And this reframes that whole fake it till you make it idea, which, it often feels so inauthentic, even manipulative.
It does. But Cuddy's personal story, it transforms this concept. It goes from a cynical trick to an act of really self-rescue and vulnerability.
Her journey provides the emotional grounding for this whole idea. She talks about the traumatic car accident she had at 19.
Yeah, and her IQ dropped by 2 standard deviations.
A huge drop. And this loss led to this profound, crippling sense of powerlessness, what she called acute imposter syndrome, especially when she later got into these elite institutions like Princeton.
She's felt like she wasn't supposed to be there, that she was a fraud who was about to be discovered at any moment.
So what did her advisor tell her? Not to try harder, not to study more. The instruction was just fake it.
Do every talk you were asked to do, even if you were paralyzed by fear and anxiety, until you have that moment where you realize, oh my God, I have become this.
So it was a commitment to action despite that paralyzing internal fear. The goal isn't external validation. It's not fake it till they believe you.
No, the goal is internal transformation. Fake it till you become it.
You internalize the change.
By consistently adopting the behavior, the pose changes the mind changes the behavior, and eventually that courageous, risk-tolerant behavior becomes integrated into who you are.
And that provides the psychological endurance you need to face the hard realities we have to talk about next.
Right. It leads us directly to the messy, difficult, and decidedly unglamorous reality of building genuine wealth, bootstrapping.
Which is the absolute antithesis of the financial guru's shortcut model.
Bootstrapping, by definition, is starting a self-sustaining business with severely limited resources. It's all on you.
It relies entirely on owner financing, sweat equity, your personal savings, or personal debt. But the key is no outside funding, no venture capitalists, no angel investors.
The mentality is completely different. A bootstrap business can't afford to pursue growth at any cost. It has to prioritize profits and paying customers, immediately.
So growth is slow, it's quiet, and it's painful.
And it's focused relentlessly on just surviving, on sustainable profitability, not some massive, rapid exit strategy.
The stakes are so much higher, and the risk is just immense. We have to face that sobering statistic.
An estimated 90% of all bootstrap startups fail within the first 5 years.
90%. But here's the counterintuitive reward, right?
Yes. Those who survive that initial grueling period have a 3.6 times higher chance of reaching genuine profitability compared to the average company.
So survival in the bootstrapping world, it's not about being a genius. It's about being versatile and just relentless.
Completely. Since there's no venture capital safety net, the founder has to do every job poorly before they can afford to hire someone to do it well.
You are the CEO, the CFO, the janitor, and the head of sales.
All at once. There's no big influx of capital to mask flaws in your business model or a lack of market fit. You have to validate your product with customer cash flow, not investor cash flow.
Let's use the story of GoPro's founder, Nick Woodman. It perfectly illustrates the 10-year grind that's required.
This was not an overnight success.
No. Woodman failed 2 companies before GoPro, and when he started it, he raised his initial $30,000 by selling bead and shell belts out of the back of his beat-up VW van in California.
It's an amazing image. He was 26, moved back in with his parents, and he designed the first prototype of the camera strap by hand.
Think about that. A future billion-dollar IPO started with handmade shell belts and sleeping in your childhood bedroom. He didn't have the high-level computer design skills, so he had to learn how to design the product through just brute force effort.
And it took an entire decade. 10 years for GoPro to reach its peak, culminating in a $2.96 billion IPO.
This wasn't leveraging debt and flipping a property in 6 months. This was a decade of sustained effort. Mastering consumer tech, aggressive marketing, and yeah, bit of luck with the timing of social media.
And you see other quiet success stories. GitHub started as a weekend project, funded entirely by the founders covering their own setup costs.
And it was eventually bought by Microsoft for $7.5 billion.
Basecamp, which used to be 37 Signals, they started as a simple consulting agency and just grew their software products slowly and profitably alongside it.
The implication for anyone listening is just undeniable. Success requires you to develop a versatile skill set, not just product development, but hardcore skills in cash flow management, sales, marketing, and systems creation.
You have to become the Swiss Army knife, because outside investors are not there to give you capital for every mistake you make.
And this harsh reality, it has to be contrasted directly with that seductive illusion of the passive income guru, especially their promotion of these highly leveraged debt strategies.
Oh, absolutely.
Kiyosaki would often detail these complex, highly opportunistic deals. For example, he might talk about finding a foreclosure property valued at $75,000 that he could get for $20,000 cash.
But he wouldn't use a traditional bank loan. He'd put minimal cash down and secure the property with a promissory note.
Then he'd immediately sell that note to another buyer for a slightly higher price, maybe $22,000.
The math is dazzling on paper. If he bought the deal using only $2,000 of his own money and then immediately got $2,000 cash back from selling the note, his capital investment is now zero.
But he still holds the initial asset, the note, which generates income. And that, in theory, is an infinite return on investment, an infinite ROI, because your capital input is effectively zero.
While it's mathematically sound, this method requires superior market intelligence, deep legal expertise in foreclosure and liens, the ability to assess risk in seconds, and deep knowledge of how to structure private financing.
Skills that are utterly unattainable for the audience reading the $15 book.
Right. Trying to replicate that without the knowledge just leads to immediate disaster.
Which is why we have to return to what we can call the grandmother's principle.
The wisdom of consistent saving and compounding.
Real wealth is built slowly, like tending a garden. It requires consistent discipline, protecting your seeds, your savings and investments from unnecessary storms.
Kiyosaki often dismisses saving as the poor dad method. He argues it makes you a loser. But the facts just contradict this.
How so?
Studies show that the majority of millionaires became wealthy through the exact method he mocks. Consistently saving, patiently investing, and letting compounding work its magic over 2 or 3 decades. It is boring, but it's proven.
And the danger of leveraging debt for these assets without the necessary foundation is just profound.
If you rush into construction and take on massive debt for a highly leveraged property that then hits a bad market, you don't just lose potential profit, you sink deeper into those debt chains.
So bootstrapping is hard, slow, and disciplined.
And leveraging complex debt is often just a form of gambling unless you possess genuine expertise and the capital reserves to back it up.
Okay, so we've established that technical financial knowledge and sheer endurance are 2 legs of the stool. But the third leg, the one that's so often overlooked, is the emotional and psychological barriers.
The internal enemies.
Exactly. Let's examine the non-technical reasons people fail, even when they understand the rules of cash flow. Kiyosaki calls them the 5 cripplers, and they're all rooted in fear and inaction.
The first one is fundamental: fear. Specifically, the fear of losing money. This is a primal fear. It's tied to our survival instincts.
And most people are so paralyzed by the potential of loss that they play it too safe.
Which guarantees they lose the opportunity for success.
So how do the rich manage fear differently?
They recognize that failure isn't an end state, it's a tuition payment. They embrace this Texan attitude. If you're going to go broke, go big, meaning you commit fully to the risk because failure, if you manage it correctly, provides invaluable learning.
So winning means being unafraid to lose. Failure inspires winners, but it paralyzes losers.
The wealthy hate losing intensely, but they aren't paralyzed by the possibility. They mitigate their risk with knowledge and preparation, rather than avoiding the opportunity entirely. The middle class loses by inaction. They let the fear of a $5,000 loss cost them a potential $50,000 gain.
The second crippler is cynicism. This is that internal voice of doubt and fear personified. It's the Chicken Little running around yelling the sky is falling.
When fear and doubt cloud your rational analysis, cynicism just emerges. It causes people to criticize opportunities instead of analyzing them.
And it's a social mechanism too, right? People who are unhappy with their own financial situation often project that negativity onto others.
The Richard anecdote from the book is perfect here. He backed out of a $42,000 townhome bargain, a verifiable asset, simply because his neighbor, who was not an investor and had zero market knowledge, told him it was a bad deal.
So he listened to the noise of doom and gloom and lost out on a property that quickly appreciated to $95,000.
He failed to analyze the opportunity objectively. The cynic criticizes, the winner analyzes and acts. The lesson is to avoid that fear of ostracism, the fear of being criticized by your social circle for doing something different or risky.
That fear keeps you chained to the status quo.
The third factor is a form of deep-seated evasion. Laziness, but masked as extreme busyness.
I know this one. People use endless work, shopping, binge-watching TV, or nonstop social events as an avoidance mechanism.
They're too busy to face their financial reality. Too busy to sit down and analyze their cash flow. Too busy to educate themselves on markets or tax law.
It's a distraction tactic. It's designed to avoid the painful confrontation with personal failure or the overwhelming effort required for change.
And the cure, ironically, is defined as a little greed. Not destructive greed, but controlled desire. You have to foster a genuine burning desire for something better, for that energy for change. Otherwise, the laziness disguised as busyness will always win.
The fourth is maybe the most defining factor of sustained poverty. Bad habits, primarily paying yourself last.
This is huge. The poor and middle class get their paycheck, and then they immediately pay their expenses and their debts. The government, the bank, the landlord, the credit card company.
They allocate money to their asset column last, and often find there's nothing left.
And this reflects a profound, often insurmountable lack of self-discipline and delayed gratification. Rich people pay themselves first.
They allocate money directly to their asset column before they pay their monthly expenses. This forces them to budget and become resourceful with what's left over.
This habit is so difficult to master that its absence is the #1 delineating factor. It's why a lottery winner who gets a sudden massive influx of capital will often go broke.
They just lack the internal control and the habit structure to manage the cash flow. They keep paying everyone else first until the pile is gone.
And finally, the fifth crippler, arrogance.
The educated person whose high intelligence coupled with arrogance just equals practical ignorance.
Yes, they refuse to learn new ideas or challenge their existing mental models. They argue instead of listening, defending old ideas against new ones because they believe their existing expertise is enough.
And this prevents them from learning crucial specialized skills like sales and marketing.
Which Kiyosaki correctly argues are the most important specialized skills in the world of business. You might be a brilliant engineer or highly skilled writer, but if you refuse to learn how to sell your product or your service, you will always struggle financially.
The world is full of talented people who focus on building a better hamburger but know nothing about business systems.
Exactly. So now let's connect this individual failure, these 5 cripplers, to the structural problems of the modern workplace, because they feed each other in this vicious cycle.
The true cost of the rat race isn't just financial failure, it's systemic emotional exhaustion.
There's a vast body of research that confirms the critical link between structural, organizational factors, like excessive workload, job insecurity, severe effort-reward imbalance, and widespread employee stress, burnout, and mental unhealth. The system itself is often predatory.
But the prevailing culture in management, especially in large corporations, it operates under what we can define as a neoliberal discourse.
Which is this pervasive institutional narrative that insists that stress, burnout, and mental unhealth are purely personal problems.
It's your fault.
The solution they offer is always placed squarely on the shoulders of the employee. Resilience training, mindfulness workshops, self-care initiatives, employee wellness programs,
Right. Management demands that you manage your stress through self-help techniques.
rather than them taking the far more costly and disruptive step of, say, reducing the workload, providing adequate staffing, or adjusting the effort-reward imbalance.
And that creates a vicious cycle. The structural conditions of the job create the stress and burnout, which pushes people to seek these quick, high-leverage escape routes, the guru's shortcuts.
But when those shortcuts inevitably fail due to lack of knowledge or the inherent risk, the individual who's already exhausted and operating with high cortisol feels doubly responsible. They sink deeper into the debt chains they tried so desperately to escape.
So they're blamed for their stress, and then they're blamed for their failure to escape it. It's a perfect trap.
It is. The path to real sustainable wealth is not found in seeking the secret formula or the immediate shortcut. It's built on a foundation of, honestly, boring financial literacy, unwavering discipline, and psychological resilience.
So we have to stop confusing inspiration, reading the book with implementation, the actual disciplined action.
And the disciplined action means focusing on the fundamentals first. Establish your 6-month emergency fund. Eradicate high-interest, toxic debt. And then, and only then, begin consistently growing your asset column slowly, tending that garden.
Patience, patience, patience.
And reinforce that core philosophy. Work to learn. Don't work for money. If you only focus on specialized skills that generate immediate income but aren't transferable, you become incredibly vulnerable.
Like the highly paid, specialized pilot or engineer whose entire industry suddenly shifts or contracts.
Their specialization becomes their prison.
Instead, you have to focus on building transferable management skills, understanding cash flow, creating scalable systems, managing people, and above all else, hone those essential specialized skills the gurus do highlight: sales and marketing.
The ability to communicate value, to negotiate effectively, to sell. That is the base skill required for personal and professional success. It's applicable in every industry, bootstrapped or not.
So it's the combination of all these elements, the financial intelligence, the versatile skills, and that internal courage to take calculated risk that enables you to spot the opportunities that others, paralyzed by fear and cynicism, just miss entirely.
Success is seen with your mind, not just with your eyes.
And we have to be fundamentally honest about the true cost of chasing the shortcut, which is almost always measured in lost time, crippling debt, and profound emotional stress. We have to stop allowing the external world to define our success and start building the internal infrastructure, that low cortisol, high testosterone, to support the wealth we're chasing. Now, let's consider this. If you successfully achieve financial freedom, how will you ensure your emotional intelligence prevents fear and greed from controlling your next set of investment decisions? We read every one of your thoughts in the comments below, and your insights help us all grow on this journey. Also, remember to follow Enchanted Life Inside to catch our newest insights. I look forward to seeing you again soon, exploring more of these ordinary things that happen every day, but are, well, very much worth thinking about. This has been a conversation about the painful realization that the shortcut often costs more than the long road. Why you should stop listening to these financial gurus. For those committed to entrepreneurship, what is the optimal balance between working hard to learn new skills and focusing only on generating immediate cash flow? My name is Eli. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.